Acho que é muito importante tentar aprender uma coisa todos os dias na sua vida. Well, I bet you didn't expect that, did you? And that really is the point of this blog today, to talk about lifelong learning, never ever finishing your learning cycle. Me, I'm currently trying to learn the guitar, currently playing it pretty poorly, and I'm also trying to learn Portuguese, which is why I introduced that with what I said. And what I actually said was, I think it's really important to try to learn something new every day of your life. Not bad Portuguese for somebody who doesn't speak it, but as soon as they speak it, I can't understand a damn word they're saying. But I'm still trying to learn. And that's my thought for this week, that no one really should ever stop learning. And there are a few reasons to keep it going. It firstly keeps you fresh, and secondly, I think it keeps you a bit younger than you might have been otherwise. Nowadays, there are so many avenues of learning that you can actually look at. I recently got given an iPad for my birthday, and I've never used iTunes before, but within the iTunes framework there are two things that I found exceptionally useful. Firstly, TED. I don't know if any of you are used to looking at TED, but TED.com is something where it's classified as ideas worth knowing or worth spreading. And it's individuals who have a maximum 20-minute talk that are interesting in themselves because of what they do or what they have done or their own thought patterns or even music. And you can download podcasts of these TED interviews or TED lectures, and each one is really interesting. I watch them if I'm either doing a run on a treadmill or on a turbo at home. And I can watch these whilst I'm doing a turbo and just learn something slightly new, and a different opinion, a different way of looking at something. Another thing that I didn't realise, I've never used iTunes before, but there's a thing called iTunes University. And with those iTunes University things, you can actually download lectures from universities around the world. I've downloaded some from, I think it's Bruno University in Australia and the Arizona State University in America. The Arizona State University has a physical education department, and the Bruno University, I'm sure it's Bruno in Australia, has a physical education department that specialises in things like sports injuries and working with professional athletes. Listening to those lectures is quite interesting, and it teaches you something. And even though I'm not doing a degree in those, it's important for me, I think, to keep on learning something new. The guitar, obviously a physical challenge to someone of my age. If I was 15 or even less, even 5, taking up the guitar, my fingers would naturally move in different patterns than they do. But they're stiff and old fingers, so they're not stretching as much as they should, and it's difficult for me to learn the patterns. In terms of a language, I've never actually been good at languages. I prefer going towards the mathematical side of things, or even the artistic side of things. I can draw pretty well. And things like that. So I might, I love when I'm older to sit on a beach and just paint away or draw. But languages have never been my forte. I've never been good at verbs. I've never been good at learning by rote. And so it's a real difficulty for me to try and learn Portuguese. But I will do it because in Cape Verde, where we have the camps, they speak Portuguese. I have a house there, and I think it's incredibly rude not to try to at least learn the language of the people where you've chosen to live part of your life. Now for me, challenges have continued throughout, and there's been more than one reason to do them. I was, a few years ago, just finishing a course on textile technology. It was effectively degree level textile technology. I already had a degree in economics. This I was doing because of what I was doing for work. And the day I finished that effective degree course, or partial degree course if you like, I opened up the Times. I was reading the Times going home. I was doing this at the London College of Fashion. I was reading the Times going home, and there was a huge advert for the first ever London Triathlon. I thought this was just fate, and I thought that is the next challenge. I've got to have another challenge, and that was the next challenge. Now I think those two challenges, one by one, or next to each other, were interesting, because the first challenge was when my children were 3 and 4, 3 and 2. And what my children saw me do was actually, Daddy came home of an evening and he did homework. Daddy did what he's asking you to do when you go to school. And they went to school and they had to do homework. But they knew that Daddy had to do homework when he came home. So that was part of effectively natural life in our house for a short period of time. And then when I took up the triathlon, my children loved the fact that I was doing exercise. Now, triathlon to me wasn't easy, because although I was a reasonably good swimmer and I loved cycling, I have never in my life been a runner. I've not been the shape of a runner. I'm quite wide-shouldered, barrel-chested, and that's not the natural running physique. And so I knew that triathlon was going to be a challenge for me. And my children came out with me on the bike when I was running, and they knew that I was hurting. They knew I had to work really hard to do a 10-kilometre run, especially at the end of a swim and a bike. So the first London Triathlon was when I really started looking at triathlon, as opposed to just looking at swimming. And I think it not only helped me, but it helped me get pretty close to my kids at the time. And they absolutely loved it. They're going out on their little bikes, following you running, they'll never overtake you. And they see you sweat and they see the pain that it takes to actually do something you want to do. And I think teaching your children that sort of thing is quite important. So there's more than one reason to keep on learning. First, to keep your mind active, of course. And secondly, to actually say, okay, nothing necessarily comes easy. You don't necessarily just have what your life is going to be. You can show your children, your family, hang on a second, I also have to work. Because at that age they think you're a little god, and you've got to knock that off bit by bit. Eventually, when they get to 15 and 16, they think you know nothing. You've got that to come if your children are still young. But there you are. So with triathlon, that might be your learning curve. That might be what you're currently saying, okay, this is what I'm going to learn. But it's also important to take the mind away from things, to try and expand the mind. Now, you might not be an expert in controlling your training plans. It might be worth just looking at iTunes University or YouTube and looking at where you can glean some information about making a training plan that is good for you. That's fine. Obviously, I'm a professional coach. I prefer to do it for you if you want. But you can do a lot for yourself and learn a lot for yourself just by looking around what is available today that just wasn't available a few years ago. So my advice, keep on learning throughout your life. But one thing, when you see anything, either from a university or on YouTube, treat every single thing you see with a good deal of suspicion, a good deal of doubt. Question every single thing that comes across, because nobody can be 100% certain of the things they do. Question it. Why are they doing it? Are they really correct? Yeah? If they go on a few years, if you're doing a basic course and you go on a couple of years, would you still believe what you're being told? Learning tends to go through various phases. And the first phase, certainly for youngsters not up to, let's say, GCSE and a bit of A-level, you're told this is a fact. Well, in reality, there are very few cast iron facts except in very scientific subjects. And if there are no cast iron facts, it stands to reason that you should be questioning every single thing you hear. And as an adult, if you're continuing learning, listen to something with a good deal of skepticism. That's my advice to you. But learn. Do something new every day. Try and get something in your life that you didn't have before. There you go. That's my blog for this week. Next week I'm hoping to look at the Paralympics and see if we can learn anything from the styles of the runners who have blades. I know there's been controversy about the blades at the moment, but I'm looking at them and seeing a way to run that maybe the able-bodied athlete or the non-disabled athlete can learn from. Might be interesting. Anyway, have a good week. Hopefully I'll see you next week.